Now, we started out this quest to attain the truth about the devil, talking about the importance of faith. Faith in the Creator of the heavens and the earth. Faith in his prophets. And when we say faith in his prophets, it's not the man, it's faith in his word. So what the adversary is doing in the beginning of humanity, by that question, and we can compare that question to the many questions of philosophy. And we're going to take a look at philosophy a little later. The many questionings of philosophy, which, although it seems innocent, there's an ulterior motive. And what is that ulterior motive? To shed doubt. But on top of that question to shed doubt, now he just tells a lie. A flat-out lie. You shall not surely die. But what's interesting about that lie, it was followed by the truth. And that's one thing that you find about lies. All lies that are told are founded in some form of truth. It says, verse 5, for Elohim doth know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil. Now that's the part that's truthful, and we're going to see that. How is that true? Well, when we go down to the 22nd verse of chapter 3, it says this, and Yahweh Elohim said, behold, the man is become as one of us to know good and evil. So when that was stated, that was understood to be the truth. Question, how did the adversary who was moving upon that serpent now know that? Well, remember, we already saw that in the beginning that the Creator, you see, remember, he created light, he created darkness, he created peace, he created evil, he created the worm because that's what he is, and as a result of giving the power of choice, the other came into being. So now, being a created being himself, of course the adversary knows that having the knowledge of the good and the evil will now put them on a level of being similar to the gods. Okay? Now, what we're going to see, picking up in verse 6, is what Hawa, or Eve now does, is exercise her free will. Okay? Now, it reads, and when the woman saw, now when it says that, and it uses that terminology, at first, keep in mind, this woman knew, based on what was taught to her, okay, that the day you eat of that tree, you will surely die. Okay? But then she added something, because we already read, if I can just back up again, when he said in chapter 2, verses 16 and 17, he says, I bear every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat of it. For the day that you eat thereof, you shall surely die. He didn't say anything about touching it. But that was something that the woman added, okay, as far as ye shall not touch it. But that's where we get into this whole doctrine of establishing what they call fences. And what a fence is something that man does to prevent somebody from breaking a commandment. Okay? You find fences laid throughout rabbinic Judaism, which is one of the things that actually caused people to move away from keeping the Torah, and the focal point became keeping the dictates of man because of a lot of the fences. Okay? But anyway, that's one of the reasons why he said, you shall not add to his word, neither shall you take away from his word. We just have to deal with the word of Yahweh in the manner and in the form which he gave it. It shouldn't be added to, taken away from. Okay? Now, it says, And when the woman saw, now the whole idea about the term saw is that her perception now has changed. This woman who once viewed the tree of the knowledge of good and evil as something that would cause death if you eat it, or in her mind, even touch it. Listen to what happened. And when the woman saw that the tree, now we understand the tree that's in reference here is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's the tree she's referring to. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, hold up, all the trees, as we already read, were good for food. But she didn't see it as being good for food because her perception was fixated upon the fact that if you eat it or touch it, you're going to die. So of course, that's not good for food. And that it was pleasant to the eyes. Well, we already read that all of the trees were pleasant to the eyes. But because this was a tree that would possibly bring about death, it wasn't something that was pleasant to the eye because there was harm attached to it. So when I saw this particular tree, no, of course I'm not going to see something pleasant to the eye because that can bring about my death. But something else changed it. And a tree to be desired to make one wise. Now, that was the new insight that she was given. Because since the serpent and the adversary was to get moving through the serpent, since the statement was given that the Creator knows that the day you eat of it, you're going to be like Him. Wow. I'm going to be like the Creator. See? Think about it. The tree of the knowledge. You see? Now, is that saying the knowledge is a bad thing? Of course not. Here's another point to be made. Knowing, understanding, as we began with the whole thought about the Creator, the Yahweh, Elohim, creating light, darkness, peace, evil. Okay? This situation right here, very easily, the Most High could have intervened here. That's another point that oftentimes we may fail to look at. And if you don't mind, I'd like to bring something else into play. Remember, when Abraham was commanded to offer up his son, and Abraham was fully intent on doing just that. So much so, his son was bound. He had the knife in his hand. He raised his arm. He was about to stab. But then he heard a call. Abraham, Abraham, stay thy hand. Now I wanted to interject that because at that point, the Most High intervened. And he stopped Abraham from doing that. And I wanted to interject that just to give you this thought. Why didn't the Most High intervene in this case? Think about it. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, the fact that she would even think that, in spite of what the Word says, shows that she has now doubted the Word. And because that doubt has set in, she has become defiant. And that it was pleasant to the eyes. Now, whatever looks good, because that brings about that greed, that want for it, for more. And the tree to be desired to make one wise, so that she has something to be prideful about. Okay? She took of the fruit thereof and did eat. She just disobeyed the Word. Not only did she disobey the Word in the sense of touching it as she was had thought to believe. Now this food, this fruit from this prohibited tree, or they say that forbidden fruit, which she knew would bring about her death, she did not have a problem eating it now. This here